My name is Sophia, a 35-year-old woman who once cherished the idea of fairy tale endings. For years ago, my life veered in an unexpected direction when I encountered Lincoln, the man who would later become my husband. This narrative unfolds our tale, a saga woven with love, trust, and an eventual betrayal amidst what seemed like an idyllic union. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning when destiny steered me to the corner cafe, clutching a John Grisham novel. Engrossed in the maze of legal thrillers, I was oblivious to my surroundings until Lincoln walked in. His presence was immediately striking, a blend of confidence and an inviting warmth radiated from his smile. "Hey, is that Grisham's latest?" he inquired, nodding towards my book. His voice carried a friendly tone, laced with genuine interest. "Yeah, just started it." "He never disappoints," I replied, pleasantly surprised by how naturally our conversation unfolded. We soon found ourselves deep in discussion about our favorite authors, our exchange flowing seamlessly. Lincoln's wit and charm were irresistibly endearing, and as the hours passed, it felt more like a reunion of old friends than a chat between two strangers. In the weeks that followed, our bond deepened. We discovered a shared passion for music, especially classic jazz, and a mutual enjoyment in exploring quaint bookstores scattered throughout the city. Lincoln was charming, respectful, and attentive, making each date something I looked forward to with great anticipation. One evening, as we strolled along the riverbank, Lincoln's demeanor grew earnest. "Sophia, I've never felt this way before. I think I'm falling for you," he confessed under the soft glow of the street lamps. His words ignited a surge of warmth within me. "I feel the same, Lincoln. You're unlike anyone I've ever met," I admitted, my heart fluttering with excitement and a touch of apprehension. 7 months swiftly passed, and our relationship only strengthened. It was during a cozy dinner at my apartment when Lincoln proposed. The moment was understated, yet profoundly sincere. I didn't hesitate in my response. I loved him, and I believed wholeheartedly in our future together. However, the joy of our engagement soon mingled with unease as the time approached to meet Lincoln's parents. His mother, Maya, was a stern woman with piercing eyes that scrutinized my every move, while his father appeared more amiable, yet carried a grave demeanor, especially regarding marriage. During a formal dinner at their home, Lincoln's father broached the subject of a prenuptial agreement. "It's just practical," he stated matter-of-factly. The suggestion took me aback, casting a shadow over our forthcoming nuptials and challenging the trust and simplicity that had defined our relationship up to that point. Despite my previous experiences with a cheating ex-boyfriend, I recognized the need for a prenuptial agreement, though I proposed a unique condition to ensure our mutual fidelity. If either of us cheats, the cheater owes the other $120,000, I stated, firming my voice to convey my seriousness. Lincoln looked at me with a blend of surprise and admiration. "Sophia, I promise you, I would never cheat on you," he assured me earnestly. I wanted to trust him completely, to believe that my heart was finally secure with someone who valued it as much as I did. Our wedding day was a picturesque celebration, brimming with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt vows of eternal love. The initial year of our marriage was like a dream come true. We journeyed to enchanting destinations, cherished our quiet evenings at home, and wholeheartedly supported each other's aspirations. Lincoln wasn't just my spouse. He was my best friend, my confidant. After the exuberant festivities of our wedding, we effortlessly settled into marital life, which felt surprisingly natural. Our first year together was a blissful bubble of joy, seemingly impervious to external troubles. Our honeymoon in Venice was magical. As we strolled along the Santa Elena, absorbed in our love, I marveled at our surroundings. "Can you believe we're here?" I asked Lincoln one evening, as the Eiffel Tower dazzled with lights. He drew me close and whispered, "With you, I can believe in anything." "This is just the beginning for us, Sophia." Those days were saturated with joy, romantic dinners, and promises of a shared future. We returned home with our hearts and suitcase full of unforgettable memories and a bond that seemed indestructible. Back in the rhythm of everyday life, our routine was comforting and filled with affection. Lincoln would kiss me goodbye each morning before work, and I would eagerly await his return, dinner ready, eager to share our day's stories. Our chats would stretch late into the night, filled with everything and nothing. One evening, while cleaning up after dinner, Lincoln confessed, I never thought I'd be this happy doing mundane stuff like washing dishes. I playfully splashed some water on him. That's because you've got an amazing wife. It's all about good company, I retorted. He caught the water with his hands, laughing. Absolutely. The best decision of my life was marrying you. Despite our bliss, external pressures began to intrude, particularly the expectations to start a family. At family gatherings, Lincoln's mother, Maya, often dropped not-so-subtle hints. So, when are we going to hear some good news? Maya would ask during one Sunday lunch, her tone heavy with expectation. I tried to deflect with humor. Oh, you'll be the first to know when there's news. However, her persistence intensified over time, putting a strain on me. Lincoln saw the tension it caused and reassured me, don't let my mom get to you. We'll start a family when we're both ready. His support was comforting, yet the pressure from others was a looming challenge we had yet to navigate fully. Despite these challenges, our first year of marriage was truly magical. We celebrated our first anniversary with a simple, intimate dinner at home. Lincoln presented me with a necklace I had admired months earlier, making the evening even more special. Happy anniversary, Sophia. Here's to many more years of happiness, he said, his eyes gleaming with love. Overwhelmed with emotion, I thanked him, feeling incredibly grateful for such a thoughtful partner. That night, as we cuddled on the couch, I felt a profound sense of fortune. I had a loving husband, a cozy home, and a future that looked promising. Yet, as we ventured into our second year together, the pressure from Lincoln's family, particularly his mother Maya, began to weigh heavily on me. It wasn't just about when we would start a family anymore. Maya's criticisms infiltrated every part of our lives. She had a knack for cloaking her disapproval with seemingly helpful comments, making each of her visits an ordeal for me. One afternoon, as I set the table for lunch, Maya entered the kitchen and surveyed the setup with a disapproving frown. Is this what you're serving? A bit simple, don't you think? She remarked, her voice laden with disdain. I clenched my jaw, trying to remain calm. I thought we'd enjoy something light today, I replied. She just sniffed, muttering under her breath about proper meals and good housekeeping. Her critiques didn't stop at my cooking. She found fault in everything, from the way I decorated our home to how I spent my free time. Nothing was beyond her critical reach. One evening, while Lincoln and I relaxed in the living room, Maya took it upon herself to offer her unsolicited advice. Sophia, if Lincoln gave me the money he spends on you, I could hire a proper cleaner and a cook, she said. Lincoln looked uncomfortable but remained silent, his lack of defense feeling like a betrayal. I was seething but managed to respond, well, Maya, I'm doing my best here. What hurt the most was noticing a shift in Lincoln's attitude. He began to subtly echo his mother's criticisms. After one of Maya's visits, he casually mentioned, Mom might have a point about the house. Maybe we should consider getting some help. I felt a pang of hurt and frustration. So, you think I can't handle it either? I asked. No, that's not what I meant. He quickly backpedaled, but the damage was done. The constant criticisms and Lincoln's growing detachment were putting a strain on our marriage. We started to argue over trivial matters, our once effortless conversations turning into tense exchanges. After a particularly heated argument, I found myself questioning aloud. What happened to us, Lincoln? We used to be on the same team. He ran a hand through his hair, looking just as frustrated. I don't know, Sophia. Everything just feels so complicated now. I went to bed that night feeling lonely and misunderstood. Maya's insidious comments had not only invaded our home, but were now chipping away at the foundation of our marriage. As the fourth year of our marriage unfolded, a sense of unease started to take root in my heart. The vibrant flame of our love, once so bright and hopeful, began to flicker under the shadows of doubt and mistrust. It all began with a phone call, or rather, several of them. A name kept appearing on Lincoln's phone. Brian. I couldn't help but notice the shift in Lincoln's demeanor whenever that name showed up on his screen. One evening, while we were watching TV, his phone rang again. Brian. Lincoln hastily silenced it and tucked the phone away, but not before casting a nervous glance in my direction. Who's Brian? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual, but inside, my heart was racing. Oh, just a new guy at work. No one important, Lincoln replied. His voice was too nonchalant, his answer too rehearsed. Following that, Lincoln's behavior started to change noticeably. He began returning home late, his excuses flimsy and inconsistent. Even his wardrobe transformed, from casual to meticulously tailored suits. Working late again, I questioned one night as he dressed up, ready to leave. Yeah, a big project, he said, avoiding eye contact. Don't wait up. My frustration and suspicion reached a tipping point when, on another late evening, I confronted him as he was about to leave. This isn't like you, Lincoln. What's going on? I demanded, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and fear. Lincoln sighed, his face a mixture of guilt and irritation. I told you it's just work. Why can't you trust me? Because you're hiding something. You're never here, and even when you are, it feels like you're a million miles away, I retorted, tears stinging my eyes. Lincoln didn't reply. He simply grabbed his coat and left, leaving me standing there, feeling more alone than ever. That night, as I lay in our empty bed, I made a decision. I couldn't continue living in this limbo of doubt and suspicion. I needed to know the truth, whatever it was. The next morning, I called a private detective. It felt like a betrayal, but the constant worry and uncertainty were consuming me. I needed answers, and I was determined to get them, no matter what they might reveal about the man I thought I knew. The days following my contact with the private detective were filled with anxiety and anticipation. I felt as if I was walking on a tightrope, trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy while my world was quietly crumbling around me. Then the call came, and with it, the destruction of my last hope. Mrs. Johnson, we have conclusive evidence. I'm afraid your suspicions were correct. The detective's solemn voice came through the phone, heavy with the weight of the news he was about to deliver. He explained that Lincoln had been having an affair. The mysterious Brian on his phone was actually a woman. My heart sank as he detailed their meetings, providing timestamps and photos. It was irrefutable evidence. Sitting there, phone in hand, I felt a devastating mix of devastation and vindication. My worst fears were no longer just fears. They were the painful reality. These were cold, hard facts. Despite the sting of betrayal, I decided against confronting Lincoln immediately. I needed to grasp the full scope of his deceit, to understand just how deep his betrayal ran. One evening, as I passed by his home office, I overheard a conversation that sent a chill through me. Lincoln was speaking with his mother, Maya. Mom, I'm planning to end it with Sophia after your birthday, Lincoln said, his voice chillingly devoid of the affection he once professed for me. Oh, that's wise, dear. Make sure she gets me a nice 68th birthday present before you drop the bomb, Maya replied, her voice dripping with a cold pragmatism that took my breath away. Leaning against the wall, nausea washed over me. Not only was my husband unfaithful, but he and his mother were also conspiring against me, planning to use me for one last lavish gift before casting me aside. Fueled by a concoction of anger and resolve, I decided to play along. Outwardly, I acted as if nothing was amiss, all the while secretly gathering more damning evidence of Lincoln's infidelity. The detective supplied me with photos, videos, and even audio recordings. I was building my case, preparing for the moment I could strike back. As I lay in bed each night beside the man who betrayed me, a plan began to form. I would bide my time until after Maya's birthday. I would give them the illusion of victory and let them think they had outsmarted me, but when they least expected it, I would reveal everything and turn the tables. As Maya's 68th birthday approached, I maintained a facade of ignorance, acting as though everything was normal. Inside, however, I was a cauldron of emotions, anger, betrayal, and a fierce determination to see my plan through. A few days before the celebration, Maya casually mentioned her expectations for the event during a family dinner. So, Sophia, I'm expecting a grand 68th birthday. You must have planned something special for me, she said, her smile sly, clearly anticipating a lavish gift. Keeping my emotions in check, I replied with feigned enthusiasm, "Of course, Maya. I've arranged a dinner at the city's most luxurious restaurant. It'll be a night to remember." Her eyes sparkled with glee, oblivious to the trap I was setting. "Oh, how wonderful. I can't wait. Just a small family gathering, right?" "Yes, very intimate and exclusive, just for close family," I confirmed, my words laced with hidden irony. Later that night, Lincoln approached me, a hint of suspicion in his voice. "That's quite a generous plan for Mom's birthday. Are you sure about this?" I looked at him, maintaining my composure. "Absolutely. It's a significant birthday, and I want to do something special for her." Lincoln seemed appeased, but I could tell he was puzzled by my willingness to indulge his mother. As the day of the dinner drew near, I took care of the final arrangements. I confirmed the booking in Maya's name, rechecked the guest list, and made sure everything was set for the grand evening. I was playing the dutiful wife and daughter-in-law, but beneath the facade, I was a woman on a mission, poised for retribution. As the night before Maya's 68th birthday dinner unfolded, I lay in bed enveloped in a complex cocktail of emotions. There was a twisted sense of satisfaction swirling within me. I was mere hours from turning the tables on Lincoln and Maya. They had believed they were manipulating me for one last advantage before casting me aside. Little did they know I had taken control of the game. The evening of the celebration arrived, set in a sumptuously decorated restaurant, each detail curated to exude grandeur and luxury. As Maya soaked in the opulence, I maintained the role of the gracious daughter-in-law, my inner turmoil masked by a well-practiced smile. As the dinner neared its conclusion, the waiter presented a bill amounting to $6,000. With a calm demeanor, I reached for my card, my heart thrumming with anticipation. After making the payment, I caught Maya's satisfied smirk and Lincoln's expression of unease across the table. "Thank you for such a wonderful evening, Sophia. This is truly generous," Maya cooed, her voice dripping with feigned gratitude. It was then that Lincoln leaned in, his voice tinged with cold mockery. "By the way, Sophia, I want a divorce," he announced. The words struck like a physical blow, but I masked my pain, maintaining my composure. Maya, seizing the opportunity, added sharply, "Well then, I guess you should leave. This is a family gathering, after all." Without a word, I stood and exited the restaurant, my dignity intact despite the inner chaos. As I walked away, I discreetly pulled out my phone and canceled the payment for the dinner. A few more taps and I blocked the shared account, ensuring Lincoln could not cover the costs either. Back at home, I hastily packed my belongings, the reality of my final action sinking in. I was closing this painful chapter of my life, ready to step into an uncertain but hopeful future. My phone soon erupted with frantic calls. I answered to find Maya's voice, shrill with rage and panic. The payment didn't go through, and the restaurant staff called the police. "What have you done?" She demanded, her words a tumult of anger and disbelief. I remained silent, letting her tirade wash over me. This was the consequence of their deceit and manipulation, now haunting them. After hanging up, I surveyed the now empty house, a place that once brimmed with dreams and love, now just a hollow shell. I took a deep breath, stepped out the door, and never looked back. Their desperate pleas for help continued, but I no longer felt any obligation to respond. I had made my move, exposed their deceit, and now it was time for me to rebuild, away from the lies and pain that had overshadowed my life for too long. After leaving my marital home, I spent a restless night at a friend's house, my mind busy with planning my next steps. The morning sun brought clarity and renewed determination. It was time for the final confrontation. I arrived at the house to face Lincoln and Maya, their expressions a turbulent mix of anger and confusion. Clutching the divorce papers and proof of Lincoln's infidelity, I steeled myself for the confrontation ahead. Maya was the first to speak, her tone laden with scorn. "So, you've come crawling back after embarrassing us like that?" I met her gaze steadfastly. "I'm not here to crawl. I'm here for a divorce," I declared firmly. Lincoln, who had so casually announced our divorce just a day before, suddenly seemed eager to salvage the situation. "Sophia, can't we talk about this?" "It was a mistake," he pleaded. I cut him off, holding up the evidence. "Save it, Lincoln. Your mistake was ongoing and well-documented." Maya scoffed, attempting to wrest back control. "You think you can just walk away and leave us with nothing? You're nothing without us," she taunted. I placed the divorce papers on the table. "Actually, it's you who will be leaving me with something. According to our prenup, Lincoln owes me $120,000 for his infidelity." The color drained from Lincoln's face, and Maya's eyes widened in shock as they scrambled to respond. Feeling a weight lift off my shoulders, I knew this was it. The end of the lies, the deceit, and the pain. "You can try to fight this, but the evidence is clear. I suggest you pay up and move on," I stated, my voice unwavering. Lincoln looked defeated, and Maya, typically brash and controlling, was now speechless. Without another word, I turned and walked out of the house, the door closing behind me with a finality that resonated like freedom. The subsequent calls and pleas from them fell on deaf ears. I had definitively closed that painful chapter of my life. In the end, they paid. Lincoln had to borrow from his parents, but the source of the money was immaterial to me. It was a modest compensation for the betrayal, but more importantly, it represented closure. As I sat in the lawyer's office signing the last of the papers, a profound sense of peace washed over me. The journey had been harrowing, filled with betrayal and heartache, but I had emerged stronger and more resilient. Stepping out into the sunlight, I felt liberated, ready to begin anew. The future was uncertain, yet it was mine to shape. After all the darkness, I finally felt like I was stepping into the light, ready to embrace whatever came next with a renewed spirit and a heart open to new beginnings.
Greetings, my name is Abigail. Right now, I'm taking care of things while my husband, Jackson, is away on a job. Even though he's busy with work, we're as close as ever. He tries to give me a call every day unless he's swamped with work. At first, I thought we were fresh newlyweds living miles apart. What gives? But I've gotten used to it. I wasn't ready to ditch our apartment. We weaved together, obsessing over the layout and floor plan. Jackson got that, so I waved him off to his solo work assignment. My friends were like, "You work from home, you could have gone with him." But I sort of liked those daily calls. And then, like a bolt from the blue, someone rolls into town looking to rock the boat. Her name is Sienna. She's Jackson's big sister, 2 years his senior. His folks live a long haul away, and Sienna was supposed to be back in our hometown, but for some reason, she moved to my neck of the woods. Suddenly, she started dropping by my place. "Abigail just popping in for a visit. Still living that hermit life, I see," she'd chirp. "Yeah, I don't step out much, but that's because I'm a remote worker. And unless I've got errands or need to hit the store, I'm usually home," I'd replied. Sienna started ribbing me, calling me a hermit. I mean, she's not wrong, but it's a bummer. Sienna treats everyone the same, if you catch my drift, but she doesn't seem to get the concept of personal space. When Jackson took me to meet his folks, she was all up in my grill. Even during our engagement announcement, she bombarded me with totally uncalled-for questions, the kind that makes you want to forget they were ever asked. "How many guys have you been with?" she'd pry. "Is there someone else in the picture besides Jackson?" Maybe that's normal chit-chat among tight-knit friends, but she was acting like a complete stranger. Zero chill. Back then, Jackson's parents laid into her, but when she swings by my place, it's just us. As Jackson's wife, I couldn't exactly flip my lid or cause a scene. I knew Jackson and his folks would have my back if she crossed the line, but she could still make me look bad to others, so I couldn't just give her the boot. Thanks to her, I have to hit pause on work and play hostess. After roughly 30 minutes to an hour of chatter, she hits the road, tossing out something like, Ain't I the best for coming to hang with my hermit sister-in-law? I didn't invite her, and her visits just mess up my work rhythm and wear me out. She's always invading my personal space and spouting off. Truthfully, it's super aggravating, but I can't muster up the guts to face her. I've thought about bringing it up to my hubby, but if he told her to stop coming by, she would sniff out that I spilled the beans. That would put her in a foul mood. Jackson once mentioned she can't stand feeling left out, and at the end of the day, I don't want anyone to have beef with me. So I've been putting up with her bi-weekly visits, kicking myself for being so wishy-washy. Then, about 6 months after she moved to my area, she drops this bombshell. "So this Adam is my boyfriend right now," she stated. "Nice to meet ya. Like you said, Sienna, this girl does seem to listen well. But a hermit? Haha. Did your bro get the raw end of the deal?" Adam chuckled. "Hey, watch it. Jackson is a bit of a klutz, you know. He only managed to snag a girl who seems a bit quirky and klutzy like this one," Sienna added. I figured it was just Sienna dropping by as usual, so I opened the door. Then, out of nowhere, a tall guy emerges from behind her, and they both stroll into my place. They had the audacity to openly size me up and gab about their rude conversation. Who's this guy?" I asked, trying to make sense of the situation. "I already told you, he's my boyfriend," she said, then added with a smirk. "Actually, we're planning to tie the knot. Isn't marriage such a drag? But Jackson does have a job and can support you while you're cooped up in here. We're not really into the whole work thing, so we are thinking of moving into this apartment," she concluded unceremoniously. "Wait, what?" I was stumped. I couldn't make heads or tails of what she was rambling about. Where did she get the idea that Jackson was my meal ticket? I work from home, and right now, I'm the one footing the bill for this place, with Jackson and I keeping our finances separate in exchange. We've agreed to suck away a fixed amount each month into a joint account. We are both on the same page about this, and the money has been steadily piling up, so I'm not living off him or anything. Actually, it's more accurate to say I'm self-sufficient. Plus, her remark about not wanting to work and thinking about moving into this apartment, I can't make sense of it. How could she think she can just crash in a room in my apartment, especially with her boyfriend? While I was reeling, Sienna and Adam began snooping around the house. Up until now, the routine was that I'd usher her to the living room, whip up some coffee and snacks, and she'd chat away until she took off. But today was different. They marched straight into our bedroom. "This is awesome. The bed is huge and everything's so tidy. We should clear ours out when we move. I will be sleeping in this bed when I move in," Adam said with a grin. This was crossing the line. This bed is something Jackson and I picked out and bought together. It wasn't meant for others to crash in, oblivious to my unease. The two swiftly moved on to the next room. That room is my current workspace. I have a top-notch desktop with dual monitors for my work-from-home gear, and gear like keyboards, mice, mixers, headphones, all handpicked by me, are set up there, I explained, trying to keep my cool. "Whoa, this desktop is the bee's knees. I'll snag this. And the chair is top tier too. It will be killer for online gaming," Adam suddenly blurted out. Before I knew it, he'd plopped down in the chair and was rousing my computer from sleep mode. I'd been working just before they showed up, so if it booted up, my work stuff could be on display. "Cut it out, will you?" I said firmly. I thought this was beyond the pale and yanked the chair away from the computer, then covered the computer with a dust cloth. "Enough is enough. You can't just walk into someone else's house and act like you own the place. This is Jackson and my place," I added indignantly, finally standing my ground. I couldn't fathom how anyone could think they could just move in. When I let this out, she looked taken aback, seeing me stand up for myself for the first time. "Oh my God, you're so hilarious. Are you cranky or something right now? Things on the rocks with your relationship? Treating us like intruders is such a buzzkill. Don't forget this. I'm gonna spill to my brother and folks about this," she spat out, and stormed out of the house. Feeling the need for a change, I decided to give my hubby a call one night after his shift. I told him about the countless times Sienna had popped over, about her bringing her boyfriend this time, aiming to crash at our place, about him trying to mess with my computer without asking, and their plan to use the bed we'd selected together. He was floored by his sister's nerve. In an effort to comfort me, he uttered, "Oh man, I had no idea. Thanks for filling me in." I breathed a sigh of relief, expecting him to be ticked that I hadn't brought it up earlier. And then we tossed around ideas on how to handle Sienna and her shenanigans. Despite our chats and the measures we took, she showed up at our pad alone 3 days later. Learning from the last run-in, I didn't open the door, even when she made a scene outside. I was on high alert, suspecting that, like before, her boyfriend Adam might be lurking out of sight from the intercom. I cracked the door a smidge, leaving the chain lock on to chat with her. Clearly miffed, she confronted me. "Aren't you ashamed to be a hermit forever? As family, it's downright humiliating," she said. I shouted back, "Oh, you think I'm a hermit?" "Yes, you're mooching off Jackson. He's covering your rent and bills. You even get to enjoy all these swanky furnishings and computer. You are living large, and it's me, his real family, who should be reaping those benefits. Not some outsider like you," she accused. "I might not be related to you, but to him I'm no stranger. I'm his wife," I replied firmly. I didn't say he should put his wife ahead of his lazy, selfish sister, but I was confident he would value me more. All she said was, "Oh, is that so?" I wanted to tell her so much more, but I kept those thoughts to myself. After mulling it over with Jackson, we decided to let her blow off steam, so I neither confirmed nor denied her claims. She ranted, "It's so wrong that you're sponging off my brother forever. I've talked to him. The harmed freeloader needs to hit the road now." I doubted she'd really talk to him. Since Jackson and I had been weighing our opinions about Sienna for several days now, there was no way she was going to call the shots. I had also discussed with him what to say if she told me to pack up, and I decided to stick with it. I replied calmly, "If that's how you feel, then I'll be on my way." Apparently content with my concession, Sienna said, "Well then, I need to get my move on," and promptly hit the road. I needed to get my move on too, though in her case, she probably meant moving in here, which was a no-goal. Shortly after, I got a call from Jackson. "Abigail, I finished relocating our stuff to the new place. Now we just gotta move your stuff," he reported. "All right, I'm planning to move tomorrow, so we'll see each other then," I responded. We had bought a house since his assignment was wrapping up, and we could finally live under the same roof. We'd been house hunting on weekends, so this move was perfectly timed. The next day, I asked the movers to load up my stuff and waved the moving truck goodbye. I stared towards our new place. After passing the keys to the landlord and expressing my gratitude, I headed to my car, only to find Sienna and her boyfriend there. "We spotted a moving truck earlier. Lucky us that you skipped town so soon. But you're a homebound hermit with no income, right? I'm amazed you had anything to hold to your next place with a moving company when you don't own a thing," she said, sporting a smart grin. I cocked my head and said, "Everything in that house was bought with my money, so it's only fair that I take everything with me." At this, she cocked her head in confusion. "Huh? What are you babbling about? You're just a hermit freeloader, right? You can't even spring for a single piece of furniture, let alone rent," she retorted. "Well, I actually play in about $300,000 a year," I answered back. "What?" my sister-in-law exclaimed in bewilderment. "Ever heard of telecommuting? It's where you work from the comfort of home. You're allergic to work, so I suppose you're clueless about different work styles, huh? I've been home because I've been grinding away there. It's not like I've been lazing around," I explained angrily. "But you've never said anything about that," she uttered, her voice tinged with confusion. "Well, I did clue you in. When you first swaggered into my place, I mentioned it to you and you just shrugged it off, saying, 'Yeah, right, you were probably yucking about daily questing MMOs or something. Those don't count as work,' you said." I sighed and added, "Are there folks who actually count that as work?" Sienna glanced at her boyfriend, sitting beside her. "Ah, gotcha," she replied. Looks like her boyfriend considers online gaming as work. They both seem to be real work haters, escaping reality through the digital world. But no matter how much you dodge reality, your real-life circumstances aren't going to change. Up to now, I've been the one holding down the fort here. I've paid the rent, and I bought all the furniture. The reason for uprooting this time is to bank up with Jackson. My single gig stint is over, I concluded. "So where the hell are we supposed to crash now?" they inquired. "We thought we could just continue squatting in this crib." "Well, I wouldn't know about that. Who made that promise?" I asked. "At least I didn't get the memo, and I didn't pass it on to the landlord either." I also got the skinny from Jackson over the phone yesterday, that he didn't get a word about it, I added. They must have assumed that since Jackson is her brother, they could hit him up for everything. What pie-in-the-sky thinking? But I thought my bro had the lease, Sienna continued. Didn't you call him up? I asked in surprise. He told me it wasn't in his name when I called, but I thought he was just messing around, she replied. I don't think he would joke about something like that. You and Jackson are as different as day and night after all. You are just like the epitome of rudeness, I responded. At my words, Sienna's eyes popped and her face gradually turned beet red. I figured she was going to bark back at me, but the next moment, her boyfriend, who was standing next to her, suddenly blurted, I shouldn't have swallowed everything you fed me. I'm dumping you. My sister-in-law was stunned. Hold up! What's got into you all of a sudden? She exclaimed. You said that if I stuck with you, your family would provide a pad and cover living costs. I thought I might as well move in with you, but if there's no place to crash and no dough, there's no point in sticking around. So I'm dumping you, Adam concluded, and a brawl erupted. I beat it out of there fast. They say lovers' tiffs are the devil's delight, and it's clear that if I hung around I would get roped in. Even so, I thought she was quite a piece of work, but her boyfriend seems to be just as rotten, if not more. He's the type who just muscles into someone else's path, buys into the rosy stories she's been feeding him, and rumbles about using the computer in bed. I was aware of his level of decency, but what happens to them in the future is none of my business. When I reached the house where Jackson was waiting and started unpacking, a call buzzed in from Sienna. He didn't want to pause the unpacking, so he fielded the call on speaker. Jackson, I just got kicked to the curb by my boyfriend because of your wife, she whined. I had already filled him in about the scrabble she kicked up with her boyfriend before I left, so he knew I wasn't the guilty party. It's on you for jumping the gun and going off half-cocked. You crashed into my wife's crib and acted like it was your kingdom, trying to mess with the computer in the bed. I don't want any ties with a nasty piece of work like you, Jackson said. What are you jabbering about, Jackson? Sienna tried to object. Our folks got wind of this, and they've said they've had their fill of your antics, so you're probably cut off. And the cash you swiped when you flew the coop. They said it's your walking papers. Don't count on any inheritance, he concluded. What? She gasped. It must have been a whirlwind for her. She got dumped by her boyfriend, can't relocate, and her brother and parents she was banking on are cutting her loose. She can't expect any windfall from her folks. Well, she has made her bed, I thought. Jackson and I blocked her number and decided to turn over a new leaf as a wedded couple in our new place.